Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, July 14th of 2024. Now, I had an interesting week this week because it started off with me getting like a 24-hour flu bug or some stomach bug, might even been a little bit of food poisoning, I'm not sure. But I started off the very first of this week not feeling good and throwing up and all kinds of things. It was a very short period of time. It was like a day and a half. And it kind of took me down where I was forced to rest and not eat and just drink water. And I wasn't able to exercise for a couple of days. And during those moments, I did a lot of extra journaling this particular week. But in those 2 days, I found myself sitting in places in my house to do my journaling or just to relax and just to rest and recover in places that I don't usually spend a lot of time in. And it brought some interesting things in because I think if you're like me and you create a space, especially as you get older, you create spaces in your home that are not only beautiful to look at, but that you hopefully spend time in and enjoy. And I have found that the space that I live in, while it is absolutely beautiful to look at, me and my husband tend to go to certain places where we go outside in this outdoor patio we have, and we spend our evenings in the backyard under this covered, beautiful space we've created. And we have a place out in the front where, the sun goes down on one side of the house, and in the front side, we have an eating space. So the heat of the summer doesn't hit us there when we eat. And so we've created these spaces, but what's interesting is there are lots of places in my yard and in my home where I literally do not spend any time in, even though they're pretty to look at. But they give you, what I discovered is they give you a completely different perspective, not just about your space, but about your life. So the very first of this week, Monday morning I came in, I was not feeling well, but I came into my office. This is my main office, and this is in my home space. So basically, over here to the side of me, there's a love seat that has actually been here for a really long time. In fact, it's a piece of furniture that has a lot of meaning to me because right after my dad passed away, each of me and my siblings got a little bit of money. And with it, I bought new furniture for my home. And the couch, it was a couch, a love seat, and then a big overstuffed chair, and they all matched. And over all of these years, the only thing that I still have is this big overstuffed chair. And it sits over here in my office. It still looks almost brand new. And even though I purchased it more than 26 years ago, that's how long ago my dad passed. And I love it. It's beautiful. I see it all the time. I sit in it rarely. Every once in a while I'll take a nap in it, but rarely. But this is one of the first places I sat on Monday. And what's interesting is I opened up my journal. I sat over there on that chair, and there's a couple of windows. And one of the things that sits over there is a great big, huge, dry erase board. And this thing is huge. It's probably 6 feet by 4 feet. 6 feet by 4 feet if I were to look. Yeah, it's big. And I have a whole lot of dry erase pens. And my grandkids over the years have liked to come up and they like to write things on them and different pictures and different drawings, and then it'll get erased off and someone else will write on it. And as I was sitting there on Monday, my grandson had drawn this picture of a game character, and he'd drawn on the bottom part of this character, "Game Over." And then he wrote up at the corner of the dry erase board, "By Nolan." So he was writing his name and adding it to this. And this picture's been sitting over there for a couple of months. So it's not a brand new picture. And, we talked about it after he drew it. And I love that my grandkids do drawings. And so I just leave them up until someone is going to come and dry erase them off, right? So I'm sitting there on Monday and I'm thinking about the space that I'm in. Usually the space I look at is pretty much, where I'm at right now. And what I see in front of me, I have a whole lot of things in front of me as far as this is my work computer, and I've got some little lights I turn on here just to give some lighting to whenever I do a video, and my printer's over here, and my computer my monitors here, but so it's a whole different place. So when I was sitting over in this chair on Monday, and I was not in any hurry to do anything because I was not feeling well. So I'm sitting in the chair and looking at this drawing of my grandsons, and I'm looking at a whole different viewpoint of my space. And I was having an observation of the creativity and just the beauty that I had made of this space up here, because it really is a place where I work, and I know when a place is organized, especially for me, I can become a lot more creative. But then as I sat and was just having appreciation for a different viewpoint of the same space, which has a whole bunch of layers of meaning too, I was sitting in the chair looking at this dry erase board. At least that was the vision of how I was sitting. And I looked at the words game over, and it brought up some interesting thoughts that I just wanted to share with you. So look around your life and your world, really look. And just being in a different space where my viewpoint was different, and I was not thinking about what I have to do and where I have to be and all the things that we all think about during our lives and how busy our brain gets because of the responsibilities and everything. But just to be in a place of observation. So sit in each room, space, and instead of reading, watching something, observe the space. And it made me think about all of the places, literally, in my home where I don't spend any time. Me and my husband have this family room upstairs where it's got a great big sectional couch and a big TV. We're not big TV watchers. Every once in a while we'll watch a movie. My husband does watch some sports, but the space does not get used a lot. And up in one corner of this nice big family room there's some beautiful windows in there. And in one of the windows, it's kind of in a little alcove, there are two beautiful wing-back chairs. And they literally do not ever get sat in. And they face the window, they face the mountains, and you can have beautiful sunrises up there. I have spent a teeny bit of time standing in that window taking pictures of the sunrise. But I was thinking about all of these spaces that we've created that we don't really take a moment and spend time in. And I think that the metaphor here is that it gives you a different perspective. And I even had just a different perspective sitting in this room with my journal, looking at this space and all of the things that are in it, and the way that they're organized and set up, and how they're designed to bring me peace and bring me inspiration and all of that. So sit somewhere different and observe what you've created. Really take it in and bring your journal. So that's when I thought about the whole thing with the chair that was there. The fact that it was from my dad, or at least was the money that I'd gotten from after my dad passed. And then I wrote, don't judge it. I think we so easily, because I kind of did this too, but we so easily start to go, oh, I need to move that, I need to clean this, I need to, over here on this side, there's a little bookshelf, and the bookshelf is full, but there's a bunch of books that are now stacked randomly on top of it. So as I was sitting over in this chair, I was like appreciating the space from a different angle, but I was also thinking, oh, I need to move those, they're messy. So I think the idea of not judging it. Don't judge it. Maybe you don't judge it, but do you take the time to enjoy it? And I think that was kind of my main message. Slow down, enjoy what you work hard to create. I think that this mostly happens when we get older. And if no matter what age you are, if you're a young person watching this, and I would say a young person is of course my age, in my 60s, anyone younger than me, the sooner you can come to these realizations, the better. If you're older than me, great. Who cares when you come to these realizations? We need to slow down and take the time to enjoy the spaces that we create. And it doesn't matter how opulent or how humble the spaces are. It really doesn't matter. And here's what I wrote. I had to get sick to stop and pause. I had to get sick before I really stopped and thought about this. This is something that I really didn't think about because I'm so busy. Because my health is so good and my life is so busy. I don't stop and just observe what I've created. I am 100% guilty of that. I really don't sit, and at least not often enough. I do take moments. Some of my best moments are in the mountains when I'm hiking, but that is of course different. I tend to be a bit of a busybody. Many of you can relate to this. I'm always straightening things and cleaning things and wiping counters and staying on top of everything. And I'm not saying just let things go, but I do believe that life is meant for enjoyment, and we're so easily caught up in all the things that are happening in the world right now, and it's very difficult not to be, because the world is changing so exponentially fast that it's kind of amazing when you tune in for even a few minutes every day and go, oh my gosh, this is happening in France, and oh my gosh, this is now happening in the UK, and oh, now what happened in Australia? And I think that it's a fascinating time to be alive and observe and have access to so much information. I think that's the most interesting thing about today, is that even though some of these things, life-changing, revolutionary things, have happened through humanity, I think that with the access to information, we now can see things happening in real time that in the past we've never been able to. So it's just easy to get caught in that, right? So I also had this little bit of an epiphany, and this is what I wrote. What getting a little bit sick teaches me? It teaches me that we are strong, but we are fragile. And I think that it gives me a greater appreciation for my health, even when I was just having that little, it was a very short moment. I'm pretty sure it was something that I ate, but even that short day and a half was like, okay, wow. I go through my days, and I think we take for granted those things that we have, even though we nurture them. Like, I nurture my health. I'm very strategic about it. My sleep, my stress, my food, what I put in my body, what I allow in energetically, all of that stuff, I'm very strategic about it. But then when you lose it for even a short minute, my goodness, you get a huge appreciation for it. So we are strong, but we are fragile. And then I wrote this, because I wrote this because I was writing all of this as I was sitting over in that chair, looking at my feet as I write this. All the calluses. I'm at the moment I'm regrowing a big toenail. I don't know if there was a few months back, I went and had a big hiking trip where in 3 days I did 40 miles. And during that hiking trip, I had, I don't know exactly when, but I injured my big toe on one of my feet, and I ended up losing that toenail. So I'm sitting, not feeling well, in this chair, looking at this picture my grandson drew that says "Game Over," and appreciating the space I'd created. And I was looking, my feet were up on the arm of this chair, and my feet look a little bit rough. There's calluses on them, and like I said, my one big toenail is growing back. So I was kind of like, oh my gosh, my feet are not the prettiest feet. But then I was also having this deep appreciation for the places that my feet take me, and all the mountains I've climbed, and the trails I've hiked, and all just the busyness that I am able to accomplish. And then I wrote this life could be gone tomorrow. We don't know when it's our day. We all assume we have more time. And this actually brought up, I wrote here, Dr. Gary Brecka. I wrote that because I wanted to tell, and I've probably brought him up before. In fact, I'm pretty sure he has. So Dr. Gary Brecka is a person who was in a position where he was looking at medical records for insurance companies. And I know I've talked about him before, but I'm going to put a link to an interview that he did. And I've watched several of his stuff, but there's one really good one that I think covers what he does in a nutshell. It's kind of a long one, but it's very good. But basically what he would do for insurance companies is he would take all the information that he would gather from potential clients of or customers of insurance, medical, like life insurance, and he would take their medical records, and he would predict to the month when they would pass away. based on their blood work, their lifestyle. Do they smoke? Do they drink? All the stuff, because if you've ever had a physical and a question and an in-depth questionnaire to get life insurance, you'll know that it's quite comprehensive. And over the 20 years that he did that, he started to feel very frustrated that he couldn't, because he didn't know who these people were. All he got were all of their information. He didn't know their name, where they lived. He didn't know anything about them personally. But basically, he was becoming frustrated that he couldn't reach out to that person and say, hey, if you just stopped doing this and started doing this, you could add 10 years to your life, or you could add 20 or 30 years to your life. And so he now has stepped out of that and is actually showing people how to improve their life to the point, because we don't know when it's our time to go. But the thing is we might have 30 or 40, or I could live to 120. But what do I want those years to look like? I could live, I don't know what that looks like. So I think that that's really important. We have a lot of control over our lives, and in the same breath, we have no control. So, it seems like a play of opposites a little bit, right? The concept of letting go is powerful. And once again, that is thanks to Dr. David Hawkins. He wrote a beautiful book called Letting Go. And many of you have probably read it. If not, I'll also put a link to that below. It's a beautiful, beautiful book that there are things that we can control. And once we get these things into place, then there needs to be a realization of the lack of control as well, okay? Releasing our physical dependence on substances, I believe, is one of the things that is really, really important. And again, these are just some of a little bit of the random thoughts that came in. And some of these things are food, the addictive foods, alcohol, anything that alters who we are. I think too much caffeine alters us. I think, of course, alcohol, smoking, especially smoking cannabis can alter who we are. When the substances that alter us, I just don't think it's healthy. Now, again, these are my own, these are non-judgments, because I do believe we all have our own journeys. We all have our own journeys through life. But I also wrote TV, prescription drugs, and even an addiction to the medical system, and our dependence on what other people's opinions, especially doctors, and I say this with respect to doctors who spend their life helping people. I know that there are doctors out there who that is why they went into the profession. I have a sister who's a nurse, and this is what she does. The whole TV thing. This brought up an interesting thing because later in the week, I have a niece who lives about 4 hours south of me, and her husband and her daughter drove up this week to do some camping a little bit north of me, because where they live is very, very hot in the summer, and they go camping every year. And so they came on their way up and spent a night with me this week. And these are very enlightened human beings who've been awake and aware of the system. And they homeschool their daughter. She's 12. And it's the conversations with them are always stimulating and inspiring. And one of the things that we talked about was that they actually got rid of their television about 18 years ago. And what a difference it's made, not just in their life, but in just the growth and the thriving of their daughter. And to me, TV is just as addictive as a substance as anything that harms us. I believe even that TV can harm us on an even deeper level, because there's so much psychological programming that we don't know and don't pay attention to, because it's so subtle. And then it becomes maybe not subtle, but we're so numbed out to it that we don't even think about it, right? So I think that what this kind of boils down to is 100% responsibility. And for them, it was really, they have done everything they can to move their life off of the grid as far as dependence on government. And this was one thing we really talked about, which in fact, that's where all my notes in, and I'll just kind of just wrap this up the best I can with kind of those maybe a little bit of a jumble of thoughts. But one of the things that I find fascinating about them is they've been, over the years that they've been together, and they've been together and married, I don't know, 16 years, and together about 20 years. They're both in their early 40s, and they've been on this growth path that's been way ahead of the curve of most people. So I think a lot of people got woken up during COVID and to what the government really is and all of that. And they've been very active politically, if you will. And these last few years has kind of been frustrating for them because they feel like no matter where you are on the spectrum, whether you're right or left or in the middle, as far as independent, as far as politically, it's almost the same. Okay, the left wing and the right wing are all part of the same bird. Same with of course there's independent and libertarian, and it's all part of the same bird. And I think the gist of the conversation that we were having that I really want to impart to you is that what they have decided to do is, as much as they can, opt out of the government assistance, the government systems. If there's government handouts, if there's government reimbursements, if there's government, it's easier said than done, and it's like free money. But if we don't need what the government's giving us, if we show them that we don't need it, and one thing that this brings up for me is the fact that when I was growing up, and all the siblings that were in my family, we always qualified for free government lunch, for free school lunch. And not once ever did my parents let us sign up for free lunch, because my dad's mantra was always, I'm going to have this many kids, I'm responsible for taking care of you, for housing you, clothing you, and for feeding you. It's my responsibility. And then he taught us very young that then it becomes our responsibility to take care of ourselves. And I'm telling you, these things are starting to come back. I have a huge faith in the human race. I do think that it might take some great cataclysmic event for more and more people to realize, we need to opt out of the system before the system actually changes. But that to me was a really beautiful conversation. So let's just kind of wrap all these thoughts up. Maybe I might title this video Game Over, which is a little bit kind of clickbait, but I mean this in the sense that we are strong, but we are fragile. And we don't know when it is game over for us individually, when it's our time to transition. And also, I think we need to take the time to appreciate the beautiful spaces that we've created. Even if it's a simple, humble place, it really doesn't matter. And I think to share those with others is really important. So I hope this brought in a couple of nuggets. It felt like a really interesting week for me because I started off not feeling that well, and then I had some kind of catching up to do. It made me realize how much I pack in during a day, and so when I'm kind of out, I was out for almost 2 days. It made me realize, man, I probably need to slow down just a little bit or learn to delegate a little bit more. Yeah, this was an interesting week that brought in just some kind of interesting random thoughts. I do want to thank my grandson Nolan for drawing that beautiful drawing and giving me the inspiration that it did, because it was just this perfect metaphor for this life and how we need to really appreciate all the gifts that it gives us. So, once again on this Sunday, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a beautiful third week of July, that it brings you lots of appreciation and joy and gratitude for the fact that we get to be here living through these times and observing them. And, take the individual responsibility that you have and put it to work and get going with it. You are the one who has, in fact, that reminds me, I have this great little thing. You are the one from my friends. You are the one. This is John and Christine Nolan, who have the Inspired channel. I went to their retreat last fall, and I got that cup. I have it up on a shelf right here. It reminds me of just not only the beauty of friendship, but I love the saying, you are the one. You are the one that you've been waiting for. So I hope you have a brilliant week ahead, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.